Welcome to Healing Generations, a podcast creating a dialogue uplifting the importance of healing, strengthening, and supporting our communities, and that addresses the disparities and inequities in communities of color. Healing Generations is brought to you by the Healing Generations Institute, a collaborative initiative of the National Compadres Network and the Brotherhood of Elders. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on our new releases.
Noxtin no Makayetzin. This is Jerry Teo, and want to welcome you to another dialogue of Healing Generations, in which we explore the beautiful medicine of our ancestors, and as an attempt to ground ourselves and heal our communities, but also heal the generations of trauma and stress that are facing us today. We are expanding our podcast to include, and we're very blessed to include two maestras, Maestra Deborah Camarillo and Maestra Susana Armijo, who will be guiding a podcast once a month with us now, and will bring on guests that will share medicine and share teachings and share reflections as well. So I want to welcome them and welcome you as we continue this journey as we go on Healing Generations. Thank you very much.
Well, welcome. I just want to welcome everyone today, wherever you're listening from. We just want to thank you. Thank you for joining us today on today's podcast. And this is being forwarded by the National Comadres Network. And we're calling our time together Comadreando. My name is Deborah Luis Camarillo. And I'm proud to say that I'm the daughter of Esteban Leos Camarillo and Anita Figueroa. We never want to forget our ancestors and those that have come before us, right? That have prayed and have been there for us all along the way, all those ancestors. And so we always want to remember them and bring them with us wherever we go. And so today, I certainly don't want to forget mine, and you too. Remember all those that were instrumental in your lives, and where today you're the manifestation of their prayers. So thank you for joining with us today. And I also want to mention that the National Comadres Network, in a nutshell, what we do is just try to bring and have forums and safe spaces where mujeres can come together and where we can offer each other medicina, because we all bring medicine, but just safe places for healing. So again, thank you again for joining us today. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Maestra Susie. Comadre, would you greet all those that are out there?
Yes, beautiful day. Hello, everyone. Feeling so honored to be here. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us and support us and bring along your ancestors. My name is Susana Armijo. I'm the daughter of Luis and Estela Esquivel. And first of all, just got to thank the Creator, the ancestors, all those loving, guiding angels, and as well as our deceased loved ones. Invite them all here in their presence, especially calling upon the grandmothers at this time to sit with us, lend us their wisdom for all the sacrifices they made for us to be here today. Feel so grateful that we're able to have this way of connecting and staying connected with all of our mujeres. Of course, we love to do it in person. We love to do it with big hugs and smiles, and just feel each other's heart to heart when we do see each other. But hopefully you'll be able to still feel that energy as we all come together, and just send out that energy too. You know, we're in a difficult time today. We're facing a lot of challenges, a lot of things coming up that are unpredictable. But I think if we can just continue to stay connected in our relationships with each other, with our families and our children, which is so important, we'll be able to continue in the way that our ancestors did going forward, and just remembering all the teachings that they gave us in order to endure and never give up hope, and just feel the love that we have for each other. I'm so honored that we'll be having a plática with our Comadre Laura Tinajero today. She brings so much medicine. She comes from a very traditional family. She's been taught so many things by her family and her traditions, and looking forward to learning some of those things. And just want to acknowledge her. When I met her years and years ago, um, it really was impactful to see her devotion to working with young girls and women and providing the healing spaces that they needed in her community, which she'll be sharing, but not only just to her community and those that were in the surrounding areas, but everywhere that we've traveled in doing our work together for creating healing spaces for women and girls. She's just so much love, so much cariño, and the young girls just love her to death, and so do we. So looking forward to our plática today, Comadre Laura. So maybe you want to begin by, first of all, just sharing a little bit about your background and your upbringing, and then we'll transition on into how you got into this work.
Okay. Well, good day, everybody. My name is Laura Tinajero. Excuse me. I am the eldest daughter of Leticia Tinajero and Serafin Tinajero. Both of my parents were born in Mexico. My mother is from a small little ranch in Jalisco. Literally, her backyard, the river separates her from Zacatecas, so house on one side, backyard could be on the other side. Very small little ranch is where she started her life, and was mostly raised here in the United States. And my father immigrated at the age of 18 to the United States, and he was born and raised for most of his life in Chupicuaro, Guanajuato. That's where my father is from. I have like I said, I'm the oldest of 5 children. So myself, my brothers, and my sister, and I am the mother of a 19-year-old. His name's Michael Martinez. So for most of my life, well, pretty much all my life, I was raised here in Salinas, California. This is where I was born and raised. It's a beautiful community. It's a rural community. It's also known as the salad bowl of the world because most of the produce that most people eat is grown here in this valley. So it's mostly primarily an agricultural community. So it is a very, very beautiful community. I'm really happy that I was born and raised here. I think it helped me stay connected to my roots. There's a lot of Chicano, Latino folks. It's just a beautiful community.
Thank you, Mija. I think the exciting thing, and for those of you that are listening, we're going to have a time where we could just have a heart to heart, and we want to have an informal conversation. And the hope is that you're going to hear something that resonates with you, because it's when hearts come together that we have the opportunity to find that healing that we need. And so, it's very exciting, as Maestra Susie mentioned, to have one of our young maestras. Laura is a young maestra with a lot of medicine, and she's been working in the community as an activist, as programs, facilitating programs, and in a lot of different venues. But I do know that there's another love that she has there, and that's working with plants and the hierbas and the healing medicine that brings in too. And so I just want to start out asking you, Maestra Laura, can you tell us a little bit of how that relationship started with the plants, and educate us a little bit more on some of those hierbas, and just share from your heart around that medicine?
Well, hopefully I don't go off on a tangent. So I apologize ahead of time. There you go. That's
right. If you have your coffee, or your agua fresca, whatever, get it out. We're here to have fun.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because, like I mentioned, my father is from Chupicuaro, Guanajuato, and so my first experience with plants was with my dad. He's always made teas. growing up, most homes, the first thing you see is a pot of coffee. But in my house, there was always some kind of tea that he was making. There was always hierbas in our home. There was always just different things that I didn't necessarily notice in other people's homes. And I don't know that I really understood what that was. I clearly remember being a teenager and thinking, like, my dad's so weird. Like, everything he wants to cure with the plant. I was very much like, had bought into the westernized way of thinking of healing, which now I know, right, that it's not. It's more like a Band-Aid. No one's really trying to make you heal. And so it's really interesting because I really was embarrassed when my people would come over and ask for help or whatever. And I was like, oh my gosh, there goes my dad with this plant thing, like, oh, yeah. And, wasn't until I actually went through a training with Jerry for my Joven Noble training. And it was, I think, Joven Noble, Shinashli, and Care Corazon. Everything was in 1 week. It was interesting for me because at that time I was doing community work and I felt like what we were doing was good, but it felt like there was something missing. This is what I mean about going on a tangent. It also had very much westernized ways, right? There was a situation where I clearly remember this at the training. Jerry said something about, it's almost like he gave me permission to be like, it's okay to hug the young people that you work with. Like, it's okay to have feelings. And it's not that I never did. I just would always feel guilty about it because I would worked with these young people. And then there were other programs that were, also working with them. And their approach is so different. And I always felt like, am I doing the right thing? Is it different? Just our cultural ways and teachings. And during that time, I remember a young person had told me that they liked working with me because they didn't have to explain everything, like their entire background, because they're like, I just know you understand, like, you're from here, you get it, you understand it. And so that was happening at the same time I'm talking to Jerry. He's talking about the abuelitas and the praying and all of that made me think about my own abuelita and how her prayers really were medicine and how her food was medicine and how that brought our entire family together, no matter what. Like, nobody said no. My grandma said to show up on a Sunday. My abuelita said show up, and everybody just went. And there was just medicine in that and gathering as family. So that is slowly how I started going into plant medicine and using it for my own healing. I remember somebody telling me about like holistic health and taking me to a store, like a pharmacy, and all it had was plants, right? And at this point, I mean, I'm learning, right, a little bit, and I went in there to buy something because I had a headache, and that was the closest store, and I started looking at the plants that were in the bottles, and I recognized some of them, and then I saw the outrageous price, and I thought to myself, what? Like, this stuff literally grows in my backyard. I'm not going to pay $30 for it. But I was so close to buying it. And I was like, why am I going to buy this from this white woman, but I won't take a tea that my dad makes for me, right? So it made me kind of, nothing on, like, it made me question myself, like, why do I trust her and I don't know her, and I don't trust my dad that I know has been doing this for all these years, right? So then it made me really have to unpack a lot of my own internalized stuff and realize, like, I don't know, I bought into some ideology that really wasn't mine to begin with, and kind of really turned myself or my back on, like, the teachings that were really available to me in my own house. So that is where I started being a little bit interested in plants. And I think that I'm still learning. I'm not an expert whatsoever. I haven't had any formal training. I'm just learning little things here and there from my father, and learning that there's so many different ways you can use them. I think that my father's really great at using plants for, like, a headache, a stomach ache, athlete's foot, cancer, all of these different things my dad has remedies for, uses plant allies for. And I feel like I'm more drawn to plants in respect to, like, emotional healing. And so I think a lot like Doña Doris and Doña Felipa, who were my first maestras from Mexico, that started introducing me also to plants in that way, outside of teas, because from my father, I understood what teas were. And with them, I started learning more about tinctures, salves, how to make salves, harvesting, how to ask permission and have an offering for every plant that you use, not to waste not even one single piece of it. Acknowledging, right, that every time you use a plant for your healing, however you use it, you're asking that plant for permission as well. You don't just take a plant, you don't waste it. It's offering its limb for your healing. So it's sacrificing itself for your well-being. And so I started learning to have relationships with plants. And so I have this brand new respect for them that I never had, growing up. And so I really appreciate them, and learning a lot about still learning around like womb health, and what I can use to take care of my own womb using plants. And so those are sort of the things that I'm learning right now. I recently started getting interested in essential oils. They're a little more readily available for some folks that might not know how to identify plants. So those are just some things that I've been learning, and just connecting with the plants has helped me connect to my own roots as well. Learning, things about my own family, about my grandmothers, great-grandmothers. Because I'm expressing interest, family members are now sharing things about my family with me that I didn't know as well.
Beautiful, Comadre Laura. Thank you. As you're talking, I'm flashbacking because I remember it takes me back several years ago when we were so graciously invited into your home. And of course, like you said in the beginning, welcomed with all that delicious comida there on the stove. We're like, oh man, we're in the right place here. And you went ahead and invited us to go there, Maestro Jerry and myself, to get some limpias from Don Laurencio. And I remember it was in your backyard, and walking back there and seeing all those beautiful plants and him utilizing them and helping the community to heal, those that were blessed to be present in his presence. And he did a lot of healing. He did a lot of healing just on that whole day that we were there. And it's so gracious, and felt so blessed to be in his presence and have that opportunity. But I remember, I'm flashing back because I remember when the day had come to an end, and he would be leaving, and you had asked him, like, but when are you coming back? When are you going to come back? And like, it was almost like, oh, if you leave, the medicine goes with you. And he looked at you and he said, because he had met your father and he had been conversing with him through the day. And he said, why do I need to come back? You have a medicine man right here in your home. And your face looked like it was just this aha moment, like there was like, what? Like you had never even thought of it that way. I'm curious to know what went through your mind when Don Laurencio had said that to you in reference to your dad.
Well, it was a humbling moment for me, because I think that oftentimes you think about like teenager. For me, I just thought about my teenage self and realized that it had still followed me in my adult life, that my dad does have a lot of teachings. And for whatever reason, I struggle to this day still taking his advice. I don't know. It's like my own ego, like work I need to do on my own. Right. My dad has a way of teaching me that is very like, he really wants me to learn. So it's very like in my face, and it's sometimes hard for me. I'm like, just slow down, Dad. Like I can't learn that fast, And so I think I think it made me feel embarrassed of myself that I never thought of my dad as a teacher, and he is. And I think I felt I felt shame of myself, because I realized that I probably at some point felt ashamed of like my dad, or embarrassed, or I didn't value him, And so that made me realize, like, like, and I say that because that even from my own family members, like they would always make funny comments about my dad or kind of clown on my dad. So maybe a little bit of that was like rubbed off on me. But when Don Laurencio saying that and knowing he was it's sad to me to say that, because maybe because he was already, I knew he was a medicine man and he was doing all this work. Him, in a way, he validated my dad. But I didn't need to. That shouldn't have had to have happened. So like, still, it's like a tough pill to swallow. That I really didn't value my father for the teachings that he has, and now I really do value my dad. It's still a little bit of, we're very similar in personality, so sometimes we still kind of bump heads, but I'm open and I receive it, But I'm really glad that happened, and it's funny that you remember that, because it's still, when I think about it, I still feel embarrassed of myself that I didn't, but I'm glad that he said that, because I think I needed to hear that. And so, I heard it at the right time in my life when I was open to it. So thank you for reminding me about that.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And thank you for being so honest about your truth about that. I think it's a lesson that a lot of us
Need to hear.
should be aware of, because our parents, our grandmothers, our grandfathers, they have so much wisdom, and we don't take advantage of that, sitting with them and just listening and letting them share whatever comes to the surface. We're not even in a time where we can think about, let me go sit with my grandmother today and let's see what I learn. Like, we don't even, we're just like trying to get to the next thing. So thank you for highlighting on that. Hopefully all of us can be a little bit more mindful and a more embracing of what our parents and our grandparents and our relatives have to teach right here at home. We don't have to go looking too far. We have a lot of medicine here at home.
Well, and that brings a very, very good point, where we're very different culturally than that dominant thinking, right? Because he said a great truth, which was, your father had medicine. You have medicine. And sometimes, we have this idea, unless we have a PhD or this doctorate, from whatever university, and even particular universities, then we're nothing. But the reality is that we all carry medicine, and we have uniqueness within our sacred purposes and within our sacred self. So that's a great reminder about that medicine that we all carry. And in that, I'm just curious, how do you bring that to the youth that you work with? That knowledge and that revelation for them, right? That even though they might be young, that doesn't make them any less, intelligent or knowledgeable with the medicine that they carry. How do you bridge that, within your work in your community and with the programs that you facilitate?
I don't know if it's just the youth are just so much better than me when I was a young person, but they're so open to it. I'm thinking of some young people in one of my last groups, and they were very open. They wanted to learn right away. You can tell who's a little more interested in learning some of our cultural ways and wanting to learn about plants. And then right away, next group, it's like, oh, my mom uses this for this, or my grandmother uses this for that. I feel like maybe in a way I'm helping validate their own family as well. They're hearing it from somebody else, but it's almost like they already know. Like, they're super open to it. I sometimes get really surprised, because I'm like, wow, you're in a really good space, But I definitely, we have this conversation. I've shared that story as well with some of the young people that I've worked with, just because we hear so much in the community about, like, people don't value the medicine that we bring, and not just like plant medicine, but like the wisdom, and our wisdom, it's medicine too. And just reminds me when I was working with my former employer, we had a lot of our young people had passed away due to youth violence. And there was a year where so many of the young people we had worked with had passed away, and parents were in need of healing. And some of our young folks were just that had survived some of those incidents were wanting limpias. And it was really interesting because it had never happened before. And had a lot of fathers that wanted support from therapists. And when I tried to support them and find them services, there wasn't anybody that spoke Spanish. And so then when I'm thinking about the medicine that we have, like, I realized that we can do this through circle keeping. We as a community can hold one another. And so it's always been something that I've been trying to push in our community, people getting trained, people coming together. I try to offer as many workshops here, which we do around about once a month with some of the people that we work with, and just they're open to the community so they can learn, so that we don't forget that we carry medicine, not for just the young people, but again, for the parents. Because I think in the same way that I felt embarrassed or like, oh my gosh, Dad, what are you doing? I think some people may feel that way too, even as adults, because it's not necessarily looked upon as a good thing in the society, even though it is. It's one of the best things you can do. And to me, I think it brings me one step closer to decolonizing. But so I think I went all the way left with that answer. But I think for me, I just share what I know, and if I see that there's an eagerness to learn, I kind of feel like I'm a connector. I try to connect young folks to and the parents to whatever I see they're interested in. And doing this work and learning about plants, you get to meet other people that are much more experienced in different parts and learn different things, that have different knowledge around plant medicine, that I'm able to connect them with other folks that they can talk to, so and learn from.
Yeah, I remember reading, and it's I believe out of the Braiding Sweetgrass. And that's an amazing book if you have an opportunity to get that.
Absolutely.
Braiding Sweetgrass, yeah. And in there they she talks about sometimes how we take for granted in the chopping down of trees, right? Like, oh, it's just a tree, we're getting rid of a tree. When in fact, it's really a whole community, right? Mm-hmm. The reciprocity that happens, mm-hmm. right? So the tree goes, and then, the moss goes, or the insects goes, the birds that stay, that live in the branches, the shade so it's just not simply one little tree. It's actually a whole community. Mm-hmm. And mm-hmm. thinking about that, and of course we talk about it through in La Quetch, right? The reciprocity of relationships and of healing together. I'm just wondering at this point of where you're at, and conveying that. How do you see that healing, transforming young people's lives within the community that you're working with? When they are able to get that knowledge and when they connect with that, how are you seeing the change within your own community?
When you see right now, I guess right now I'm thinking of a young person that I was working with, and there's quite a few young women actually that I'm noticing now that I think that are organizing, and they're big time organizing in our community, and they're activists. They're very young, 19 years old, 19, 20. And something I think that they have that I didn't have at that age was that they are transforming our entire community. They're bringing in all of this knowledge. They are armed with so many more tools. They have a bigger tool belt. They're able to use this. They're able to even ask. I at that age, I didn't ask for, can I have a healing circle, or can you support me in circle, or can you, I didn't know how to smudge myself. I didn't know there were other things to help me. And when I see that, sometimes I just want to cry because I feel so happy, because I'm like, they're going to be okay. Like, as organizers and as activists, they're going to be able to do this so much more longer, and they're going to be able to do it in even a better way than I was able to, and people before me, because they're conscious, they're connecting, they're connected. And I think sometimes in the work I do, some people we're not necessarily connected. We sometimes disconnect from ourselves as we're doing this work, and I think that with them, they're my teachers. They actually remind me to stick with it, because sometimes I get busy, and I know it's a practice and it's supposed to be every day. But, I think a lot of us are guilty of like, okay, I'll get to that right now, and se nos olvida, or we forget about it. And I when I see the young people pulling out or texting me, do you have some sage, or do you have, whatever plants I have, I always gift them. But it's beautiful to see them. It's beautiful to see them doing that, because they're just, I don't know, I just look up to them. I admire them. I admire them so much, because they are already transforming and using everything that they need to take care of themselves and learning. So I think that, like, that's what I think about their lives changing, about them being transformative and doing everything in a good way.
Thank you, Comadre Laura. I'm just curious to know, I know it's very obvious that they're wide open and hungry to learn. They're embracing the medicine and whatever you have to share with them. I'm wondering what has been your observation as far as just the mujeres learning at a deeper level their personal connection to all of nature, all the elements, and wanting to cultivate that relationship to the plants, to the trees, to the water, to the sun. Do you feel like after you share about those, of how we are connected to all the elements, do you feel that helps them in their own healing when they learn that we're all one and we're all connected to everything, the plant world, the sun, the animals, the insects, like how it's all integrated and how we all play a part?
I would say that I do my best to make that connection. And I think that what I noticed, because I'm thinking of specific young women, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of them are really more focused around like racial equity, but still this is very much around still environmental justice, right? Taking care of our earth, because we need it. We need water. We can't do anything without water. And we have had like spaces here where we've had maestras come and do it, and they have had water ceremonies, and they've been able to do things here locally to take care of our water. And I think, and I'm just going to share a story, because I'm not sure how to answer this question, but the story makes me think about the connection. We had Maestra Laura Castro came and had a circle with us, and we did this beautiful thing with water, and we prayed over that water. Everybody had their water, and we prayed over it for, I want to say 10 days, twice a day. And we were instructed to take that water to places where, like a sewer or like a river that's muddy and needs water, or that's contaminated, like somewhere to bring healing, right, to that space. And there were a couple young women in that space, in that circle, and they took it to a lake. That's not necessarily one of the cleanest little lakes that we have here. We don't have too many around here. And she said that as soon as they all poured that water, fish just started jumping out of the lake.
Wow.
She's like, we got so many fish. They did a catch and release. And I'll go, wow, they're probably just thanking you for cleaning their water and healing it. But it beautiful. Was just that connection that they made, like our prayers and this water are connected. And we brought healing to this space, right? And so that's the best way that I feel like I could answer that question.
That's beautiful.
I think of what Jerry says, experiential learning, like that's who we are as we're doing it. And I think as they do it and as they see it on their own, more than my words, that's when it's going to connect for them.
Powerful. Gracias. Thank you.
I know, Master Susie, I think, boy, if we could have had these teachings when we were young.
Oh, you ain't kidding. And I'm thinking even more that as she's talking about the water, how we've really tried to bring awareness to all of our mujeres that we are the element of water.
Yes.
And this is the time of women to rise and help to heal our planet. And I think it's very obvious in all the fires that are going on around the world that we do need to heal our water and cultivate and pray really hard to bring us back into balance. There's too much fire. There's a lot of rage, a lot of anger. And what's going to put those fires out? But water. And I think if we all see ourselves as part of that solution, with our prayers and praying over the water and really intentionally trying to cultivate our own water within ourselves. I think a lot of us, and with reason, we have a lot of water going on, but it's like boiling water. It's hot, and we don't want to scald others and hurt and harm. We want to be a healing water. So that ceremony, so much needed. I think we need that everywhere with all our mujeres together. Primero Dios.
And especially right now, right, when we're in this time, it's a very tumultuous time. There's a lot of things pending right now. And, politically things are happening. We have this COVID-19 that, at least for our generation, we hadn't seen anything like this before. Even though we can't forget that our ancestors have been through many, many difficult times, and they have come through and have survived and given us that strength, right? But in these times, right, where do we go? And especially when have to Zoom all day, and our, mothers with 4 different kids that have had to be high school, middle school, elementary school, and preschool teachers, right? Because they have to be there and going through all of this, right? That beautiful medicine by just walking out, right? Just taking, 1 to 5 minutes and going and being there in the garden or with the plant, or even if the plant is at a bay window, to just connect with that and taking that pause, right? That breath, water, going outside and watering in that good way and receiving that back, right? Having that beautiful exchange, I think is a beautiful way to release that stress that's so needed at this particular time, And so I'm just kind of curious at this time, what are some of those, you talked about doing some oils and doing some things right now. I'm kind of curious, what are you, what kind of magic concoctions are you brewing up?
What medicine are you bringing back to our awareness? Yeah.
Well, that sort of started because I don't like to take medication. Medication has actually, I've had to take pain medication in the past for many years, and it actually caused a little bit of liver damage for me. So I don't take any kind of medication unless I really can't take care of it myself with plants. But I don't take any, and so I've had to find other ways. And so headaches for me, I tend to get a lot of tension headaches. And so I started making rollers for tension headaches. And so really easy to make that. And that's like one of the one that I carry with me everywhere I go. It has a lavender, which helps relieve, some of that. And it kind of like calms you down a little bit, and also helps with anxiety for me, at least. Peppermint, which really helps with any kind of pain for me, even with muscle pain. So it's one of those like kind of really universal things. And lemon. And so all those, I use those 3 together with coconut oil, fractionated coconut oil. And so that's one of my favorite ones. And so after I started making them, I started getting requests in my family. So for tension headaches, I really love frankincense too. I feel like it helps almost with everything, with my skin, with the headache, with whatever I'm feeling, anxiety. It's really supported me too. But the oddest thing that I wasn't expecting was I feel like my number 1 requested essential oil blend is for athlete's foot and for ringworms. Like I have all the men in my family asking me for that. And I just didn't think that would be a thing. But yes, that is like my number 1 requested oil blend. Apparently works very well. So people keep asking me for that. So
Now,
That's
what's one of the ingredients in that? What,
it has probably the most ingredients of everything. It's tea tree oil, lavender, peppermint,
wow.
rosemary, frankincense. I'm trying to remember what the other one is. I think that might be it. I feel like there's 5 ingredients 5 different oils that I use. And that is the number one requested oil. And so, yeah, that was interesting for me. But hey, I mean, I've seen the results of it and it works. So I call it, it helps with fungus. So
That's
it's interesting.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Have you been able to incorporate maybe like, I'm sure you have, but I haven't been to one, a workshop for these young girls to learn how to do this?
I actually did one with one of our comadres, Adriana, up in San Bruno with her girls. I did a PowerPoint presentation for them with some really just simple ones. And I shared the recipe with them so they could make it on their own, everything that they need. And then I also mailed them some. I sent them rollers for their graduation as a gift. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. Like Maya yesterday was saying, if we would have known this back
I
then,
know.
I think it's a blessing that you're willing to teach this. And I
Yeah.
I never even knew there was, back in the day, especially for teenage years, that there was alternative medicine, And I think it's beautiful that you're teaching them how to do these things on their own. Making them aware of their own self-care and their bodies, and letting them know that we do have our traditional ways of taking care of these things. Beautiful.
Well, and I think another part to that too is that we have this knowledge, right? And somehow it's kind of like the organic factor, right? So our gente have been eating organic for the longest time, but then it gets kind of repackaged and sold back to us as if it was from someone else,
Right.
And so really, acknowledging that we have a lot of knowledge that sometimes we don't get credit for, right? And we need to be proud instead of embarrassed, because I understand that too, right? You're a youth growing up, and you're like, oh my God, my parents are so old school, kind of embarrassed because I want to be all modern. And we're coming to a place actually where that old school stuff now is becoming real in fashion.
Yeah.
You find it at Trader Joe's or, all these.
Yeah.
So taking back what was ours to begin with, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, Master Susie, were you going to say something?
I know you've had so much wisdom to share with our girls, and I know you've been in so many different organizations and focusing on different issues. I'm curious to know what are maybe a couple of lessons that stand out to you and that are the most impactful, that you really want these girls to know. I know we could go on forever because there's so many different levels. It depends on which lens we're looking through, but I'm sure there's a couple of things that, as these girls are at a fork in the road, that you want them to take with them. What maybe a couple of things that helped you to maybe go another direction where you could have chose maybe not so good of a direction? What are a couple of teachings that maybe some maestros or parents or grandmothers that have come to you that left an impression and helped you to choose a direction that was better for you to walk in and brought you closer to your sacred purpose and the direction you wanted to go in?
I think first and foremost was like finding your voice and trusting in your wisdom. I think there's a lot of times growing up I felt like I knew what to do, but I was told I was wrong. No. And so as an adult, I'm always second guessing myself now because that was what was ingrained in me. Like, no, that's stupid. Like, no, that's not right. And so now I think working with young girls, I'm really intentional about like, no, I want to hear what you have to say. One, creating a space where no one's going to shut them down. That they're, no matter what they say, it's valid in that space. While I'm there, it's always their voices. It's gold. Whatever their word is, it's always gold. And I think just always them to trust, to use their voice, to trust their voice, to use it to do good and for themselves, for their families, for their community. And to learn themselves in that way. I think the other would be learning my body, like to learn to pay attention to that my body has sign, like having a relationship with my body in a way where, like now, I can easily say if I am getting a headache, I know if it's because I didn't eat or if I didn't drink water, right? Like just simply I haven't had enough water. Let me go get some water, or something's not feeling right in my body. I know now because I'm connected to myself in that way, understanding even like foods that that make my body feel better. They give me energy, right? Things like that. Like really, like I wish people would have told me, or I wish I would have learned to trust myself. So I think I really, when I work with young people, I'm just like, trust yourselves. I really believe in the wisdom that our youth carry. And I want them to believe in themselves too. And so, and to use it even when people try to shut them down. So, because there's so many ways now that you can use your voice too. It's not just, you can use art, you can sing, you can draw, you can do so many things. You can write a poem, there's so many ways that our young people there are avenues where our young people, even if the most shyest ones, can still use their voice.
So powerful, the voice. It brings me back to growing up where in a family with like, if nobody's talking to you, you keep your mouth shut. And you should be seen and not heard. Unfortunately, it took me years and years and years, and sometimes even now it's difficult for me to step up when my spirit wants to speak and allow myself to express my truth. Not that it's everybody's truth, but just to be able to voice it. It's so important, and you're right, for the young girls, to be able to embrace their truth and say it and say it in a good way. I know words are so powerful. I heard this saying one time, our words, we can utilize them to hurt or to heal. It's a choice how we want to use those words. And I think the younger that we're aware of that, it's going to help us in all of our relationships, not just on a platform or in a classroom, but even with our own partners. In maintaining our relationships, knowing how to communicate in a healing way, in a good way, because nobody wants to hurt, especially your partner or your family or your siblings. But the more we're aware of that, how can we communicate in a healing way is so important, and that you give them the platform and the space to learn how to do that is priceless.
And just to add what you said, how to communicate in a healing way. I think something that I've noticed a lot with young women lately, and I've seen it with young men too, but right now I'm thinking of young women, is there's this thing that I'm noticing, and I noticed that I had this too as a young person. I didn't know what my feelings were. So they manifested in a way where I got angry, and I chose to deal with things in not the best way, right? Because I didn't even know what was happening. And then there's this thing that I hear from young people a lot now. When they're upset, they'll say something, or there's something something's going on, they'll say something like, I feel some type of way about this. And then when I ask them, well, what is some type of way? What does that mean? Well, some type of way. And I'm like, what way? Like, what are you feeling? Like, let's stop and think. Like, are you feeling anger? Are you feeling mad? Are you feeling sad? And it's like, I feel like if you don't know what you're feeling, how can you communicate in a healing way if you don't know, right? So having these conversations with them of at least to stop and reflect, because I've had to learn to do that too as an adult. Like, I feel all these things in my body. There's an emotion. So I believe that they're feeling some type of way.
Mhm.
Something's happening. It's even happening in their body, in their head. Like, asking those questions, like, where are you feeling when you say I'm feeling some type of way? Like, where do you feel it in your body?
Mhm.
Where are you holding that feeling? And let's talk this out a little bit more. And sometimes they'll get a little frustrated, but I'm like, no, it's important, because then someone can label, like, oh, you're angry, or you're this, or you're that. Like, I really want to hear from you. What is that type of way? Because how do you learn? I want to learn you. I want to get to know you better. And also definitely never want to offend you. So if I did something that made you feel some type of way, what way are you feeling? And what was it? Like, so just really getting young people to kind of like really think about what they're feeling. And I think that can happen too, because so many times their feelings haven't been validated. And I think that even as women, a lot of times our feelings are not validated, and they're so powerful. And I remember having a conversation not too long ago where they're like, somebody was being dismissive of feelings of women that I work with. And I thought to myself, and that it's getting in the way of maybe like some of the things that we're trying to do. And I thought to myself, I have feelings. That's why I do this work. So I wouldn't do this work if I didn't have feelings. So feelings, and anyone that's feeling any kind of way, right? Let's talk about what that is, because it's important. And I've seen, when people don't discuss their feelings, especially in this work, if we don't circle up and share how we're feeling, one, it doesn't help. Like, if we're trying to work toward decolonization, we're definitely not doing that by being dismissive of each other's feelings. And we can't move in a good way if we don't understand how each other's feeling about things. So I think that's something that that being able to, as women, own it. Like, yeah, if I feel some way, I feel this way, and it's okay. And I'm doing this work that's all around emotion, feeling, healing, like that I should be able to express how I feel. And then that's how I feel. Like, once you're able to do that, that you can communicate in a good way. I think it's not allowing for those spaces that you just can't do it.
Yeah, very, very important message. So as we're coming to a close now, right? How about a consejo? Because we have, we've got listeners all around the world, and so as a young mujer, as a young maestra, the experience that you have, what would be your consejo? That whatever it is that helps you to continue in your healing journey, and what would you say to other young women that are in this path? What words of advice would you leave them with today?
To be open, to approach everything with an open mind and an open heart, to be kind to yourself, because we're all learning. Some of us are learning together. Some of us know more than others. So being kind to one another as we're going through this healing process, right? Healing isn't always pretty. So just, it might feel really good after, but the process isn't always the most beautiful process for some folks. And that's okay. Continue to work on yourself, always work on yourself. Again, use your voice. It's powerful. If someone tries to shut it down, speak louder, whatever you need to find more women to walk with you. Reach out if you need help. It's okay. We don't have to, as women, carry everything on our shoulders. It's okay to ask for help. Trust in yourself. And I think, love yourself, stay connected to yourself, connect to nature. Really, everything in nature has a teaching that we can learn from. Sometimes we're looking for people to teach us things, and we can learn a lot from sitting with plants. We can learn a lot from just observing the animals, insects, everything. We can learn a great deal thinking about ants, right? You can learn a lot by looking at ants, how they work together in a community. There's so much you can learn, just keep your mind open. And I think that, stay in your sacredness and pray. I think daily prayer is important. So that's probably a lot of stuff. People aren't going to remember all that, but those are the things that work for me.
Maestra Susie, we are so lucky to be able to have this forum and to get to speak with other mujeres. And what are some last words? What do you want to offer to all those that are hearing today?
First of all, I really want to acknowledge you, Comadre Laura. I've been in your workshops before. I've sat in círculos with you many times, and you've taught me so much, probably unknowingly, just by your example. And it's been so beautiful for me to see these young girls just gravitate to you that are so fortunate to be in your workshops and to learn from you. I think that the most important thing for all of us when we create these healing spaces and círculos is helping our mujeres to feel safe, to be welcomed as they are, and to feel loved. And you just exemplify that every time. Every time it's just this big, cariñosa, loving maestra. And these girls, we need it. All of us need to feel that love and that nurturing, and that they're able to have the opportunity to know what that feels like is just so powerful. And I've seen the transformation in these young girls, and they don't want to leave your workshop. They want to keep on going, which is a beautiful sign, because it's allowed you to teach by your example, and for them to learn, and them to teach other young girls that come to them. And it's, with your examples. So God bless you for that. I know it's not always easy. I know it's a lot of work and a lot of devotion, a lot of commitment, because there's some days when we're not feeling the best, but we have to, step up and teach our young girls how to work through that, and to do it in a good way. And you've done it so beautifully every time I've been able to be blessed to be in your presence while you do that work. I know it's creator's work, and I know it's what you're supposed to be doing, and you do it well. So thank you so much.
Well, we just want to say thank you. Thank you to everyone who has joined us today. We know that you could be listening to anything else, but you're choosing to be here with us and joining us, Comadreando. We also want to thank National Compadres, and this forum has been provided by Healing Generations, and they're hosting the National Comadres podcast at this time. So we're very grateful to Healing Generations. And also we want to say, if you would like more information about National Comadres Network, just go online and just punch us in, National Comadres Network, and it'll take you to more information that of the services that we provide. So again, on behalf of all the comadres, we are so grateful that you were able to join us. And remember, as mujeres, we have the power. We are sacred, and we all have a sacred purpose. And so staying on that path to healing will take us where we really can find our true happiness. So on behalf of Deborah Camarillo
and Susana Armejo and
Laura Tinajero.
Bendiciones until next
comadres. Adelante, mujeres.
Adelante.
Con mucho amor. Adelante. And remember to water your water.
Water your water. Bendiciones.
Adelante.
For more information about Healing Generations and the Healing Generations Institute, visit nationalcompadresnetwork.org and be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with our new releases.